Simon Robin Peel was born at Many Gates Hospital, Wakefield, on the 1st of November 1969 to proud parents Eileen and Doug. Although the hospital has long since gone, not surprisingly, replaced by a luxury block of flats, it was used after it closed by Bretton Hall College, and in a nod to how Simon's career was to develop, as a teacher training facility excelling in music and the performing arts. Simon went to St Thomas à Becket Catholic Secondary, where his love of DJing and music developed, as well as tinkering with electronics and wiring. After being one of the youngest broadcasters for the hospital radio service at Pinderfields Hospital, he began mobile DJing at functions, getting a lot of lifts off his dad, Doug, from venue to venue, and growing his love and affection for the DJs at his local radio station in Leeds, Radio Air. Simon's enthusiasm in Yorkshire grit took him into a radio career with Radio Air, where he met his best friend Dean of nearly 40 years.
I first met Simon, and I think it was 1987. I'd just started at Yorkshire Television in Leeds, and for some reason I was next door at Radio Air where he was working, and he was producing James Wales' radio programme, amongst many other things, like producing commercials and all sorts of tinkering with wires or whatever he was doing on that particular day. And from that moment on, we sort of like hit it off. Our humour was just so much alike. I moved over to Manchester a few years later and began working on a music programme called The Hitman and Her. It needed additional crew, and I immediately thought of Simon. He joined me over in Manchester, and we worked on that programme for, I think it was about 3 years, right until the very end, amongst lots of other different things for different companies. That began a very long friendship and career with Simon in television. We worked on lots of different programmes, lots of sports programmes, children's programmes, and mostly horse racing, which we did for something like 15 years together. So we spent many a long hour on the road together, and you can't spend that much time with a person on the road and working together without either hating each other or becoming very close friends, and we became really, really close. The things I'll miss most about Simon are his humour. We laughed at some very dark things. We had very gallows humour. Also, his unwavering support for not only me, but for other friends. He would often do that at his own expense.
Simon was a total advocate of anything LGBTQ, being a proud gay man himself. So when the opportunity to work on a community radio project called Gadio came up here in Manchester, he knew he could help in a number of ways: behind the mic, mentoring, training people, and engineering projects.
Hello, Heaven Customer Service, Simon speaking. Thursday evening across Manchester, I'm Simon Peel, and this is your Manchester Evening Show. Hi, love. Are you a last minuter, or are you well planned and ready? Me, last minute, I'll be honest. Old age. High time though, we did a bit of this.
Beat of the week.
Your evening show beat of the week. It's called Adrenaline Rush. And it's a tune. Back tomorrow from 7 a.m.
Chris from Gadio takes up the story.
I think my first memory of Simon is probably an 18-year-old in a studio for the first time trying to do a show when he was under the desk rewiring it at the same time. Simon was brilliant here at Gadio. He kept us on air. He gave up a lot of the fun times to make sure that we were able to do cool things. For example, at Manchester Pride, when most of the team were out probably getting drunk, Simon was here making sure that it was still on air and being broadcast and things like that. and not just from an engineering point of view. He hosted shows here at Gadio, and I think some of the people's first foot in the door at Gadio will probably be doing a show with Simon. Just remember him as happy, bubbly face, always trying to probably do a bit of engineering whilst on air, but more importantly, always bringing in cakes.
Now, it's at Gadio that Simon and I met. I loved his acerbic, nonchalant and often direct responses. A true Yorkshireman, and we became good friends. And after career highlights, including spells working for BT, Shell, SIS, Racetech, the RAC, the School of Sound Recording, where he and I were tutors, and also joining me as a traffic officer at Highways England, I found myself, along with Dean and his partner Paul, being his support through one of the most difficult and challenging times in his life that started in January 2021, when he was rushed into hospital in a life-threatening condition, which also included COVID.
Greetings from Trafford General Hospital. Doing okay. As you probably can imagine, Mr. Gunn is behind the camera.
Hello.
There you go, you see. As if right on cue. Be lovely to see anybody that wants to come and visit. Free parking, and we have a garden. So you don't even need to come in the hospital. Well, you can't. So there. Bye. Well, hello, greetings. My trusty cameraman, as ever, has suggested it's about time I did another video. Oops,
Video.
I've not been drinking,
Bravo.
but after 22 months, I'm finally in my own home. Not fixed yet, a bit of rehab to do, but at least I'm home. All visitors welcome. Hope you're all doing well.
The journey was never easy. There were often very low points for Simon, with injuries from falls and a slow recovery, basically, for his limbs, but also some very funny, often highly inappropriate moments involving us all that I'll cherish forever. And I'm sure that you'll have yours too. Simon was a huge sport fan, notably of Leeds United, F1 racing. He loved plane spotting, and he would often enjoy a drive to the airport viewing park, or even while in hospital watching the live YouTube channels from the airport. His knowledge of useless stuff was absolutely immense. Finally, although his dad can't be with us, there are lots of his family that are. Ladies, what did Simon mean to you?
He meant repairs. Forever sending me new wires and connectors for various bits and pieces that either I or the children had destroyed.
Sylvia?
Simon, I've travelled an awful long way with you through your life. I love you forever. And ever. Sweetheart, thank you for being you.
He was always a really good laugher, Simon. We used to dress up as superheroes in Granny Peel's back garden with tea towels and all sorts. And even as we got older, whenever we got together, we always had a really good laugh. He always had a really good sense of humour. And we loved him to bits. We'll miss him a lot.
Jeff?
I've been thinking about this, actually, without knowing that this was going to happen. For me, my relationship with Simon, I didn't know him. I didn't know the real him. And still I loved him. And seeing today what we've all experienced together, and then looking at your eyes now, he was a really special guy that I didn't know. So I know more about him from you lot, you three musketeers, than I actually knew myself. Every time we got together, we would shoot shit, talk about the weather, talk about music, and he'd let me be a bit interested in him for a while, and then he'd disappear off and be himself somewhere else. So there's a lot I'm letting go of today. I wish I'd known more. Part of that's on me. but I love him and I'll miss him. And it's a shame he had to go so quickly. But thanks for all you lot did. Thank you. And for everybody watching, dance to the next song. Best thing you could do.
Big, big thank you to you all. Dean and Les and Paul, you've just done such an amazing job. And you've put Doug back together again. He would never have got through without you. And I know you've done that for the love of Simon. And I thank you as his big auntie. Love you.
Rest in peace, Simon. You're missed more than you'll ever know.
Bye.